guys, what's up? So I want to show y'all something. So here in my hand I'm about to show y'all is one of the Encyclia species that is definitely in my top 3 favorite Encyclias. This is one of the species, that and Phoenicia. These are definitely one of the ones that got me interested in Encyclias when I first started growing orchids, and that is Encyclia altissima. And I am trying to do this with holding the camera. Here is your plant. The plant is ugly as sin. There's no question about that. This plant is extremely ugly. They always look like that. They always look like they're a dead plant, because this is more like a xerophyte. Here, I'm gonna have to find a way. This guy lives up here next to the grammatophyllums. And I just brought it down. Let's see if I can get this. So here is the flowers. They're nothing to write home about, but what sets this plant off is the fact that the fragrance on this plant is amazing. It smells like vanilla and like honeycomb, and it's just extremely potent, beautiful fragrance. Now this plant, I'll pull it back down. So this plant here is native to the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and some of those other islands down there in the Caribbean. But the plant grows pretty much in full to partial sun, and you almost grow them like a cactus. And I do water this more than what they would get naturally, and they grow just fine. But naturally where they grow on like limestone bluffs, where there's like, you know, small shrubbery that's exposed to, you know, high winds and salt spray from the ocean, and they seem to grow fine here in Florida. I do bring this plant inside when it gets cold, because this absolutely does not like the cold. And I'm sure you can see that leaf there is already showing some cold damage because I did not bring it in soon enough. But there are 2 plants on here, and this is another plant that's, the spikes can become 6, 7, 8 feet long. They will stay shorter and highlight. As you can see, this plant here is hanging out here with the grammatophyllums. Again, the sun's setting here, but it goes across the sky here. So during the second half of the day, this plant's going to be in the blistering sun, and the spike doesn't have to reach very far to get to the sun. But this is such an interesting species. And John Finer over on the Plant Propagators YouTube channel, he did some flask work for me and did some seedlings that I made of this plant. I sib crossed a few of these and sent him the seed, and he flashed them for me, and I've got some babies. They might have been in another video, I'm not quite sure. I can show you all that, but hopefully here in some years we'll have some blooming size altissima seedlings. That being said, this plant grows about as slow as any orchid can. I think you get 1 or 2 bulbs a year max out of this plant. So some of these plants, when they say, you know, take, you know, 6, 7 years to get to blooming size, I don't think that's an exaggeration with this species. They are quite slow, but it's definitely worth it. And I'm excited to have some seedlings. So thank you, John, if you're watching. I really appreciate that. This is definitely one of my favorites, and it's really rare. And so now we're gonna have a few more of these hanging around, but just wanted to show you all that. And one more time, if I can get a good flower. Excuse my hand, but I think I'm gonna have to use it to get this camera to focus. There's the flower. And I have a photo I can insert into the video, a better flower photo. But that's Encyclia altissima. Alright guys, so for the second half of this video, I want to show y'all the seedlings of the Encyclia altissima. So like I said, I sent John Finer over at the Plant Propagators YouTube channel. Go check him out. He does a lot of flask work. He's taken that on now for hobby now is he's flasking orchids, and he does a damn good job of it. But I wanted to show y'all some of the seedlings that I got back from him that he did really good with, and I community potted them. And some people, you know, like community pot style, and some people do not, and there are pluses and minuses to both. So the first thing I want to show y'all is these two. So I've got a 6-inch standard azalea nursery pot here with some shredded tree fern, and as you can see, there are a bunch of baby Encyclia altissimas just growing clumped together like that. And here is a 5-inch pot, same thing. Now the plants are doing quite well considering how tricky this species is and how slow growing it is. I'd say they're doing amazing. And so deflast date on these guys was 3/22/23, and I wanted to show this, and maybe if John sees this, the reason I do community pots is because I'm not a very good waterer, and I put a couple of these in individual pots, and they're just about as big as the individuals in the community pot. Some of them are a little smaller, some of them are a little bigger. And the reason I do that is because yeah, I'm not very good at watering, and I'm sure if I had watered more, if I was home more to take better care of, especially after the deflasking stage, breaking them up immediately would have been a good idea. But I'm not. I'm a bad waterer. And so the community pot style for me really works well. Here's another little seedling individual that individually potted. Now for these individuals, I did pick the cream of the crop. I picked the biggest ones out of the flask to do this too. But the rest of them, they just got put together in their own little pot, and they have to live together. Now, as you can see, this is in shredded tree fern, and the individuals that I potted in tree fern are doing a lot nicer than the individuals that I put in a seedling bark mix. And again, I attribute that to my terrible watering habits. I'm not home enough to water the way I'm supposed to, and even though this is an extremely dry growing species, seedlings are still going to want, you know, pretty consistent moisture, especially coming out of the flask. They're coming out of 100% humidity, and you're supposed to acclimate them slowly to the lower humidity and the higher temperatures, but I did not do that. Now a little bit about this plant. I think I mentioned it a little bit ago. This plant is from the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, Cuba, and Haiti, and the pictures I see of it growing in the wild tend to be very exposed locations, and I wouldn't be surprised if the salt content can sometimes be a little high near the ground, because it often appears like it's close to the coast where, you know, there'd be salt spray or, you know, occasional flooding. I'm not sure on that, because I've never been to the NC2 habitat to see these plants, which I would like to someday, because it is one of my favorites. But this plant grows very hot, very exposed, and I would imagine during certain times of the year there's probably not very much rainfall. The rainfall that they do get, probably they get it in deluge, you know, these big downpours during tropical storms and such. But altissima, the seedlings are doing awesome. Let's see if I can get this. You can see some of those bulbs. So for being a year, that's not too bad, a year out of flask. I will inevitably have to break these up here shortly and get them in their own individual pots, and that's one of the downsides of community potting. Now that it is time to break them up, it's going to be a real mess to get the root systems untangled gently, because they are still small enough that you're not going to mess with the roots too much, but I'm going to have to mess with them a little bit to get them untangled. Whereas if I had done that straight out deflasking and individually potted all of them, I wouldn't have to worry about that so much. But like I said, with my watering habits, oftentimes community pot style works better for me. This one here is not doing too bad. And if you're like me and you don't water and you individually pot, you do have to take care to make sure that the humidity and moisture is consistent. And I'm only showing you the living ones. There were a lot of ones that just got thrown away or died. Again, I attribute that to my practices, not the plant. The plant is just a plant. It's going to do what the plant does naturally, and if you don't provide adequate conditions, sometimes the plants will decide they don't like you and they will die. And that's not the plant's fault, that's our fault, because we are growing these out of habitat. You know, this is not a natural setting. But I will try and make a video when I do break these up. I'm still torn on what size of pot I'm gonna do and what media choice. Being a xeric plant, you would think you'd want to pot it in something real dry, but they've done so well in this tree fern that I'm almost tempted to continue using this shredded tree fern when I do the next pot size up, but we'll see. I still haven't decided what I'm gonna do, but that's just a little bit of a view on what seedling altissimas look like. So here in the future, maybe before I'm retirement age, I'll see some of these seedlings bloom. So thanks for watching, guys, and if you like what you saw, hit like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time, and thanks for watching. Bye, guys.